Hey guys, it's a brief from life, and I'll be going over the basics on how to use Guild Wars 2 BLTC. I'm going to briefly discuss why and how to use it for money making, and I'll also be giving some examples along the way. Keep in mind that the examples that I'm going to be giving in this video are theoretical and just to sort of help explain certain features or concepts, so don't hone in too much on the specifics or try to copy anything too closely, because you could end up, screwing yourself over. Now, there's a lot of overlap between Guild Wars 2 BLTC and what a spreadsheet can offer, but you should know that BLTC is not a replacement for a good spreadsheet, nor does a spreadsheet completely replace the features that I'm going to show here on BLTC. They can both be incredibly useful, and to have the best effect, you should use them both whenever you need to use them. Now, the first feature of BLTC, which you have to make an account and link your Guild Wars 2 API to, is the account page. If you click on this, it will give you an account overview. It doesn't show your wallet gold, so that's one drawback of this, but overall it can have some useful information. I don't particularly use this page a lot, but it can be interesting to see sort of how you're doing with your flips and your money making in general. The other options that it offers that I'm not going to click on because it'll make a loud noise are the sell and buy offers that you have on your account right now, along with a detailed sales history. And the reason that you might want to use these instead of the in-game system is that you can search these way easier, you can scroll through them easier, they load faster. So if you are doing a lot of flipping, have a lot of orders in, these can be quite useful. If you keep the buy orders page open, it will actually by default make a sound that alerts you when you're outbid. So if you're trying to compete for items, that can also be useful. You can set up Guild Wars 2 Taco to do the same thing, but it has a pop-up and doesn't make sound. So you can sort of pick which one you like if that's a feature that you're interested in. But that's about it for the account page. Now, lists is a feature that I don't personally use anymore. Any case that I would use lists, I actually would put the list into my spreadsheet. But lists can be used to sort of have a pet list of items that you want to check regularly, that you want to flip regularly, whatever you want. If you bring it up in the trading post search portion of BLTC, you can actually see all the prices and data that go along with the TP side of it. So it can be quite useful starting out if for whatever reason you don't want to put a list into your spreadsheet. It's pretty simple, but I'll go ahead and make a list here. You have to give it a name. Create. And then you can search for items on here by their ID and then add them like that. Or with the search feature on the trading post portion, you can add them like that. The trading post portion of BLTC is the bread and butter of why we use it. There's a lot of things that you can do just from this search list portion right here. You can copy the name of the item and then paste it into the search box for the TP in-game. You can copy the chat link to an item and then link it in-game with the in-game chat. You can add it to the default list, so if we wanted to add this to the list that we just made, you can see right there that it's just been added. We can open up the Guild Wars 2 wiki page on the item and maybe get more information on where it's acquired, how to get it, things like that. So that can be useful. And then we have the information for, I guess, the money side of things. We have the sell and buy prices. These correspond to the ones that are in-game for the buy and sell. So buy would be the low price, sell would be the high price. The profit is the amount that you would make if you bought the item and then resold it at these two prices, and that accounts for the 15% TP tax that you would incur. ROI stands for return on investment, which is the profit divided by the initial cost that you paid for the item. Supply is the amount of the item that is currently listed for sale on the trading post. Demand is the amount of buy orders currently placed for the item on the trading post. And then the sold and bought is the amount that has been sold from sale listings or have been insta-bought off of the TP. and then the amount of buy orders that have been insta-sold to on the TP. The two figures that you see here are for 24-hour periods, but there is a way that we'll show you in a little bit on how to get figures for other time periods. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of cases where we want to find different groups of items, and searching by item name is not going to do that for us. So the way that we're going to get through that is we're going to open up the Options tab, and this is going to give us the ability to add filters. There's a lot of different filters that we can add. Different circumstances might call for those. So theoretically, if you had like a gambling issue and wanted to roll in the Forge to get like a Leaf of Kudzu, we could add some filters like exotic. Type, we could add weapon. Let's see, longbow, level 80, and then search. You might notice that some of these are a little cost prohibitive. Obviously, these are not useful to us because we would not want to roll those in the Forge. Those are way too expensive. So we can actually add another filter using this. We can select a filter based on any of the criteria that you see listed here in these columns. So we're going to do based on buy, add the filter. This gives us a minimum and maximum price to filter to. Obviously, we'll do $69.69. Go ahead and search again, and that's more like it. So now, if you wanted to, you would be able to take any of these items and go ahead, copy the name, go over to Guild Wars 2, paste that in, and then it'd be right there, and you can buy it. A really good way to use the filters that BLTC has is to filter by ROI for a particular set of items to find good items to flip. So if we go for exotic, let's see, berserker, weapon, and then we filter to only level 80 berserker weapons that are exotic, we can search, and we'll come up with a nice list here. Let's add a filter for ROI. We want a minimum ROI of 10%. No maximum on the ROI. And then let's add another filter for the buy price, because we don't want to spend too much on individual items. And let's do a maximum of 5 gold. And there we go. Now we have a filtered data set. We can search for an item to flip, sort by ROI. And now we have a lot of good items that have really good returns on investment that we can flip. When you are vetting items to flip in this scenario, keep in mind that you may want to also add filters for bought and sold to sort of get a medium or high velocity item. Some of these won't move very fast. This one might be a good bet because it buys a lot and sells a lot. The more filters that you add, the shorter this list will become, but hopefully if you add good filters, the better quality you'll get in the items that end up in the results. Now what if we want some more details about an individual item's behavior? Well, all we have to do is go ahead, click on the item. It'll bring up the item with all of the details. If the item's a crafting material of any kind, there will be a list of applicable crafting materials here. So if we had Mystic Coin, for example, we would have a billion different options for what we can craft and where we would have to craft it, like the Mystic Forge, etc. You get an extended version of the in-game trading post window. It goes down a little bit further, as you can see. And then you're going to see this graph. This can look a little bit confusing at first. It's really pretty simple. Just the way they have it formatted to, I guess, save on space can sort of confuse people who haven't seen it before. So this first graph here, there's 3 of them, if you can see. Right here there's one, right here there's another one, right here there's another one. These all share a time axis, but these graphs give different information. The first one is the pricing information for the item. This purple line is the lowest sale listing that's on the trading post. The red line that's below it is the highest buy order that's placed on the trading post. If you scroll through, you can see the different prices that are coming up. 107, there's a little dip there, down to 98, and such. The second graph right here is supply and demand. So the purple line is the number of items that have been listed for sale on the trading post. And you can see it goes up, drops down, goes up again. The red line is the number of the item that's ordered on the trading post with buy orders. And then this third graph is a bar graph that displays purchases and sales. So the purple bars right here, you got one right there, one right there. Those are for the item sales. So a sale listing that gets bought off the TP Instabot. The red bar is the opposite. These are buy orders that are being filled in or insta sold to. And so if you sort of put this information together, you can sort of see how this can paint a picture. This item took a little bit of a dip here, and you can see the supply is going up. The supply drops off because a bunch are Instabot right here, and the price goes back up to compensate for that. Now, one note to make about this third graph here is it can lie to you sometimes. The only thing that BLTC is able to see is when offers are added or taken away from the in-game trading post. So in some cases, you may see fake data in the section. It usually happens with these red bars, buy orders filling. It can happen with the purple ones as well, but that's far less common. Actually pulled up Heart of Connor Toughness Infusion, which is dropped in LS5 very, very rarely. And this is for 1 month. Can definitely assure you that these are not all actual sales. What you're actually seeing here is buy orders that are being taken down. And so you can see right here, several were taken down all at once. And BLTC, all it sees is that the buy orders have gone away. These were the highest buy order. It registers that as a sale because that's what it would see if someone insta-sold to the buy order. Now, this isn't generally a huge issue, but it's just something to keep in mind for the behavior of an item. Don't put 10,000 gold on the trading post expecting to get a Heart of Connor tomorrow because it's not going to happen. Now that we've sort of examined some of the features that the trading post section has, let's go with some hypotheticals and how we would sort of work through them. So the first one is an example of risk assessment. So let's say I want to buy or craft a legendary that I would be listing on the TP to get some raw gold, something a lot of people do. But 1,800 gold or so is still a pretty significant amount of gold to me. I want to minimize the amount of likelihood that there is that the item would be stuck on the TP for an extended period of time. So what would we do for that? Well, first off, we go to the trading post section, apply some filters. For this one, legendary should do. Search it up. Here's our list of legendary weapons that are tradable. And I think I'm going to go with Kudzu, personal favorite of mine. If we look at the graph right down here, if it'll ever load, and we can filter it maybe a week, maybe, you know what, let's do a month. A month is pretty good amount of data to look at here. So if we take a look at this pricing graph up here, we can see that the lowest price that people are listing at is 1,900. We obviously don't want to sell at that low of a price because we want to make as much money as we can while still being safe in this scenario. So we want to sell somewhere a bit higher, but we also don't want to put it so high that it gets stuck, right? So if you see right now, it's at 2050. It looks like every week or so, it goes a little bit above 2050 with the sell price. They get bought up to that level, and then more get added based on supply, demand, all that stuff. And so it looks like if we were to list it at 2050, it could be sold, it could get stuck for up to a week. It would be pretty safe, but it could take up to a week to sell. If that's fine, then we can list it. That's not fine. We want the money a little bit quicker. Maybe we can lower that to like 2030, around this range. It routinely sells at that price. So that's a method of risk assessment that you can use BLTC for. All right, so let's take a look at just one more example. So let's say I was on the TP Overflow Discord the other day. Some crusty ass rando in the Discord told me that I can make mega stonks by buying trick-or-treat bags during the Halloween event and holding them for 10 months. He smelt a bit like cheap alcohol, kept insisting Peerless Infusion prices weren't going to sink harder than my chances of getting laid after I started playing Guild Wars 2. So, you know, I'm not really sure if I can trust him. But I do want to see if trick-or-treat bags are worth my while to invest in. So let's look up trick-or-treat bags here. For this one, it's a long-term seasonal investment. So we're going to look at a huge data set because we're going to be holding this item for a long time to hopefully make money off of it. We're going to look at last year's data because that's the only complete data set that we have that's recent. It looks like last year they dropped down to probably 4.5 gold is what we'd be able to consistently buy them for, maybe a little bit less. And it looks like we would be selling them for up to probably around 6.5 gold on average, something like that. So after tax, the profit would be around 1 silver per bag, which would be a little over 20% return on investment. And that would give us 2.5 gold for every inventory slot in our bank, characters, whatever that we would fill with trick-or-treat bags if we were to buy them. Now, something to keep in mind if you look at the supply graph right here is you'll notice there's a lot more of them. The thing with seasonal investments is that the more people that invest in them, the less money that you generally make, especially if there's a larger supply, but at least we can get some idea of the maximum amount of profit we'd be able to make here. So we could make up to 2.5 gold per stack. Now I just have to decide, is that worth my while? Is that worth the inventory space, the gold, the time, all of that? All right, so that's about it for the trading post portion and the money-making portion. Just want to highlight a couple potentially useful features that BLTC has. There's the database feature, which features other items that are not tradable, gem store items, things like that. There's also the die matcher, which can actually be extremely useful. You can go ahead and select a color that you want to see on your armor. So if I want cloth armor to look like that, I can select that and then search for it, filter by the match to cloth here, and it'll recommend dyes based on the look that you want. So that's a really cool feature. Now there's definitely more advanced things that you can do on BLTC, like determine if an item is being price manipulated. You can even look for RMT on BLTC, do a lot of crazy stuff. We just went over the basics to sort of get you an idea on how you can use it, start using it, and how it can sort of help you make money. So I hope that you learned something, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them to me on Discord.